To say that this one is special is a gross understatement. This week, we welcome Dr Bohdi Sanders to the podcast. If that name rings a bell to my loyal listeners, is because that is the author of the Warrior Wisdom books that we have used pretty much since the inception of the podcast to deliver us universal truth and wisdom. Bohdi has written a new set of books, Wisdom of the Elders, The Art of Inner Peace, and Secrets of the Soul. And I purchased these 3 books. Of course I did. For the podcast. I actually used money from the Patreon supporters. So thank you very, very much to them for that. We are going to use these books to continue to give us wisdom and peace and truth. I bought the set directly off Bohdi, and when they came, I let him know that I'd got them and that we used his books on the podcast. We connected from there, and what you're about to hear is the conversation we had. We decided on the title of Universal Truth and Wisdom because there was reoccurring themes throughout the conversation that were universal. These things, these profound statements, and loyal listeners of the podcast would know when we use these books, they are truly profound and they work in any circumstance. We discussed this and much more with Bohdi. To say it was a privilege and an honour to have him on the show, again, is a gross understatement. It was truly a privilege and an honour to sit down and discuss these universal truths and wisdoms. You can get Bohdi's new books through Amazon, and I'll put all the links in the show notes. Please get his books. They are excellent. Remember, we are on Patreon too, Unlocking the Code. Look us up. If you want to swing a few dollars our way, that'd be excellent. We're stepping things up here at the podcast, and the evidence of that is this conversation. That'll be about it for me. We're going to use Waiting for the World to Change. Thanks to Angus for his vocals on that one. Thank you to Craig at Craig Johnston Music on Facebook for the intro. And I think we'll finish with I Know You. It continues to be interesting times. Times that we all need a little bit of universal truth and wisdom and peace. Thank you very much for your ongoing support. I really appreciate it. Look after yourselves. Be kind, be cool, be disciplined. Stay focused. Prepare. And we'll talk soon. Cheers. G'day everyone, welcome back. It's my great pleasure and honour to introduce you all to Bohdi Sanders, or Dr. Bohdi Sanders, the author of the Warrior Wisdom books and the Inner Peace set, which is the new one. And if that sounds familiar to my listeners, you know that we've used Bohdi's books for a long time. How are you, Bohdi? Thanks very much for coming on, mate.
Good, Triffin. How are you?
I'm a bit wet, mate, to be perfectly honest, as we record.
I heard that. So am I pronouncing your name right?
Yeah,
Triffin?
Triffin's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, no, I'm currently, as we record this, I'm cut off in a few different directions, but I'm on a hill and I've got Wi-Fi and I've got power, so we forge ahead, mate. We wanted to start, obviously, what I wanted to let you know is how we use your books, right? So my wife got me your Warrior trilogy many years ago now, and I read those front to back. And when we started the podcast, we would have, and this podcast has been dedicated to consciousness, history, all manner of conversations we've had. And it was very early on in the piece that I said, hey, grab one of those Warrior books and see what it says. And basically what we do is we'll grab whichever one. So whoever's sitting in this chair will grab a book, we'll close our eyes and we'll open it up to a page. And you've got no idea, mate, how many times that that whatever quote it is on whatever page it is, like close your eyes, open the book, the quote that is in that book, it encapsulates the entire conversation that we've had. It has happened over 100 times. And
that is interesting.
And that's how we've actually used those books in this studio, to the point where guests will come on and they're like, oh, can I do the Warrior book? Can I be the one that see what it says? And it's, aside from that, it when it encapsulates it, it's like, wow, that saying that the proverb or the quote that you've dug up for the book is so profound. We can have a 2.5 hour conversation and then one quote sums the whole lot up, and that's happened on so many occasions. And
that's wild.
I've already shown a couple of the boys the Inner Peace set, and we're looking forward to see what those reveal, mate. So I suppose
I may have to just take those books and make the Warrior I Ching out of it. You don't even have to. You don't have to roll the dice or anything. You can just turn the page.
Mate, all we do is, look, I'll tell you what we'll do, and I know it's with you and they're your books, but at the end of this, let's do it. We'll see what it says for us, okay? And you'll be amazed.
Sounds good.
You'll be amazed, mate. So first question I maybe had for you is obviously bringing out the Inner Peace set in this sort of time. Was that intentional? Was that always happening? Or, because, obviously we need a bit of inner peace.
Well, yeah, I think it sounds like you've been following my writing for quite a while.
Yes.
And you know that, I've had my challenges over the years. In the martial arts world, it's a different genre. It's a different world than other parts of the literary world.
Yes.
And if you start doing too well in the martial arts world, there's going to be somebody that wants to knock you down.
Right.
And I had my haters, come out and just, tried to destroy me. They wrote every lie you could think of. And in the midst of dealing with all that, I ended up, I've been in martial arts for 36 years now.
Yeah.
And did football for 6 years, bodybuilding for like 20 something. And, I've kind of, worn a lot of my body down.
Yeah.
And so I had to have, 7 surgeries over the last 5 years or so.
Okay.
And in the middle, I had to have 3 hip surgeries, 2 hip replacements. In the middle of recovering from those, I was in a car wreck, rear-ended by a drunk driver.
Right.
And so I had back and neck issues with that, and just started to get recovered from all those surgeries, and went to the doctor one day because I had a rash on my arm. And I just wanted some kind of cream or something to put on it to make it go away. And when I walked in the doctor's office, he came in with his folder, and it was a different doctor than I normally see there. And he said, I said, well, I want you to look at this. He said, I don't give a damn about your rash. He said, we need to talk. And he sit down. He said, my partner has been misdiagnosing your case she did not read the MRI right, or she didn't tell you right or something, but you need to get to a specialist immediately. I've already called a brain surgeon. You need to call him, get to Denver as soon as you can. And I said, well, I came in here for a rash on my arm. I feel fine. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And, well, we misread your MRI, and I know you were told everything is fine, but your brain tumor is it's grown very large. You need to get into the doctor immediately.
Right. Okay.
So I called the brain surgeon up. He said, no, you need to get up here right away. So I drove up to Denver. He just wiped his calendar, got me in as soon as possible. And at the time, I was working on my book series, The Secrets of the Martial Arts Masters. It was it was a 3-book series. I ended up culling it down to a 2-book series. But I was almost done with that. And he said, you've got to have surgery. We got to remove this tumor. I said, well, I'm in the middle of the books, getting these, these books taken care of. I said, can we wait like 6 weeks? Because I want to get these out for Christmas. And he looked at me, and he said, you don't have 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
He said, if you hadn't have gone in with that rash on your arm, you would have been dead by Christmas. Wow. And that was in October. So I had to immediately go in for emergency brain surgery to remove that tumor. Was in the ICU for 5 days. And well, you'll get a kick out of this. While I was in the ICU, I'm laying there, and I felt, you never feel great after surgery, but I felt okay. And I was kind of bored of watching old reruns on the TV and news and this kind of stuff. So I asked the nurse, I said, could you bring me some of your copy paper or clipboard and a pen? So she brought me a stack of paper, a clipboard. I wrote 2 chapters for my Secrets of the Martial Arts Masters series while I was in the hospital in the ICU. And I'm sitting there writing away, and I'm on my pain meds and everything they were giving me. So some of the stuff I wrote was, pretty wild. And the doctor comes in and he says, what the hell are you doing? Oh, I'm just, making some notes. You just had brain surgery, and the tumor was pushing on my the nerve, optical nerve, behind my eyes. And you're not supposed to be writing or using your brain. You're supposed to just be relaxing. So they took it all away. But before they did, I got 2 chapters written.
Oh, that's good, mate. That's good. At least you get your chapters
out. Dealing with all that, I just it was kind of a spiral. And it had the stress from all the surgeries. And before I got healed from one, I had the next one. We'd have one. No, you got to have this one. Oh, how soon can I have it? Well, we can do it in 5 months. So I never got healed up. It was just one after the other.
You never recovered from the first one before you got to the next one. Okay.
And then I had throat surgery during the midst of all that, and a couple of other surgeries. And so it was just it kind of got to me a little bit. And I just kind of stepped back from everything and said, what do I want to do next? I had published a book after that was called titled Defiance, the Dark Side of the Martial Arts. And it kind of excuse me, that kind of put these guys, there's a lot of frauds in the martial arts world.
Yes, very much so.
And I kind of just outlined what I'd seen them do to me or try to do to me, and what they've done to many other people. And when I took that and just step by step, what these guys do, how they're ripping people off. And even before that book came out, those guys were attacking the book and attacking me because they were afraid what it might say, even though I didn't name names in it. I just, I put down what they do. And, after that, it was such a battle that I just needed a break from everything. And so I took a couple of years off without publishing a book, which is, fairly rare for me. And I just, took some time to meditate and decide what I wanted to do next. And I think, COVID was getting started. I thought, what we really need right now is inner peace.
Yes.
And so I started, I've been so busy that I'd let my meditation slide. I wasn't able to work out like I used to because of all the surgeries and recovering. And, when you deal with your stress by working out,
Exactly. Yeah.
and you can't work out, it starts to pile up. And
I'd be a crazy person, Bohdi, if I couldn't work out, mate. I'd be a crazy person.
I was getting there. And, so, it hit me in meditation, okay, you got to get yourself straightened out. You got to get, back on track. You can't do everything you used to do, but you can still do a lot.
Yeah, you got to reset and re-engage. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And so I started my meditation. I started yoga, what I could do. Of course, I couldn't do what I used to. Started, with my weights again, and, light weights. And I thought, I started studying my, some of my writing and some of my, favorite books, and getting back into, where I used to be. And then I thought, this is going to be my next book.
Yeah, right.
The Art of Inner Peace, because not only did I need it at the time, and I was able to use my, knowledge to get myself back to that point. Yeah, that's it. And, I thought, everybody needs this right now, because at the time, the COVID was starting. Everybody was scared to leave their house or to do, to be around even their family. And I thought, well, this is just ridiculous. So I started writing The Art of Inner Peace. And and I've had people ask, well, how can you write about the art of inner peace when your other books are about self-defense, and you talk about how to hurt somebody, how to do this if you have to. And to me, well, it's not to me, it's the way it is. You can be a warrior and still have inner peace. You can be at peace. You don't have to be stressed out all the time thinking everybody you run into is going to attack you.
Is it Bohdi, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war, mate.
Right, exactly.
And I think that if people are asking you that, I think they don't understand. Well, look, I suppose they haven't really read your books, have they, mate? If you read the Warrior Wisdom, if you read those books, yes, you must prepare and you must be disciplined. However, you've still got to be peaceful, right? It's not attack. Right. It's just preparedness. It's
exactly.
So
they just assume that they know what I believe and what I think. But you're right. The people that wrote that probably have never read one of my books. And because my books are, they're based on wisdom and living, life to the fullest.
Yes.
And I integrated that wisdom with the martial arts in my books, which have to do with the martial arts. Not all of my books have to do with martial arts.
No.
I've got a quote book out on pure wisdom. I've got a book out called Secrets of the Soul, which is an interesting little book. Yeah, you've got that one too.
Just for everybody. Yeah.
But so not, and I've got a book out for men called Men of the Code.
Yeah, I don't have that one. I should have that one though, because this podcast is called Unlocking the Code, Bohdi. How do I have that?
You will like it. You will like it. And so I don't just write about martial arts. That's a small part of what I write about. Yeah. If you look, even if you go through the books that, like the Warrior Wisdom series that you have, if you go through there, they're not just for martial artists.
No,
that wisdom in those books can be applied to anybody and everybody.
As I said, the thing is, Bohdi, we haven't been speaking about martial arts or any of that stuff when we've used those books, right? We've had a discussion on spirituality. We've had a discussion on consciousness. We've been talking about ancient megalithic societies. We've been talking about like so many subjects. Right. And at the end of it, we pull that Warrior Wisdom book out, and one quote encapsulates the entire conversation to the point where it's a bit spooky. you know? So there's no, I think the misconception that people have is that this wisdom that comes down to us from, and what I love about your books too, mate, is it's not just, it's everybody, right? You're using, you know, Greek philosophers, Roman philosophers, Asian warrior quotes, you know, Sun Tzu, all these people. You're bringing, the way you bring it together and encapsulate it is such a wide range, and it's definitely not just for martial artists. I mean, I've studied martial arts myself. Interestingly, injuries have stopped me training full time, but I still train most days out in the gym to maintain my strength. But as far as like, digging right back in, I'll hurt myself if I do that. So I train by myself these days. However, you know, as I said, there's a flood happening outside of this room right now. One of the reasons I decided to continue to do the interview today is because a lot of the stuff you talk about is integrity. It's discipline. It's this sort of stuff. It's like, well, I'm dry. I've got Wi-Fi. I've got power. It's a privilege to have you on. Of course I'm going to do it. Why wouldn't I do it? Right.
Right.
And I think it's more of a, I was going to say mantra, but that's not the word. It's a way of life, you know, and that's
what I coined, you know, the warrior lifestyle.
Yeah.
And you know, when I say that, you know, most people, when they think of a warrior, they automatically think of, you know, like special forces or something that, you know, are just trained to kill. But that's not what I meant by the warrior lifestyle.
No.
You know, and you know, the warrior lifestyle encompasses everything you were talking about. You know, it's spirit, mind, and body. And you know, I guess, you know, calling it the warrior lifestyle may be a little misleading to some people, but that's what it meant to me, because, you know, I kind of come from the mindset of, you know, being a warrior, but I also integrate, you know, the spiritual side, you know, the mental side, you know, the whole 9 yards into it. And that's why you know, at least half of my readers are not martial artists. Yeah. They have nothing to do with martial arts. I get grandmothers, granddads, you know, people who had never set foot in a dojo in their life, and they love it. It's because, you know, real wisdom, universal wisdom, you know, applies to everybody, not just, you know, one group of people. And, you know, I don't care who you are. If you get attacked in the streets, you're going to want to defend yourself. Even if you've had no martial arts, you're going to try to defend yourself. And you know, I like to ask kids, you know, if I go and speak to a dojo or something, and you know, I ask them, well, how many of you in here have been attacked and, you know, had your life threatened in the last month? Usually nobody raises their hand. Okay, what about the last 2 weeks? Nobody raises their hand. Yeah, what about the last year? Has anybody been attacked on the streets in the last year? Most of the time, nobody raises their hand. And then I ask, well, you know, how many people in the last week have had a chance to cheat or lie or steal something from a store? Everybody raises their hand. You know, that's part of the warrior lifestyle, is living with integrity and honor. And, you know, it just, you know, the martial arts part is just a small piece of what I teach.
I think the martial arts and, you know, training in martial arts gives you it gives you strength, but it gives you confidence, but it's not about violence, right? I think any true martial artist, Bohdi, knows that, right? It's not about,
exactly.
It's you never strike first. You may strike last, but you never strike first, unless necessary.
You never attack first.
Yeah. You never attack.
You want to strike first.
Yes, yeah, that's true. You are right.
Yeah, and people get that confused.
Yes,
you know,
that's true.
And they say you don't strike first. Well, yeah, that indicates you wait for somebody else to throw a punch or to actually physically attack you. You know, the first attack happens a long time before they throw the first punch.
That's true. Yeah.
And so, but in today's society, you got to be careful because it's a balancing act. You don't want to ever attack first, but you do want to strike first.
That's
right. But in today's society, you got to defend yourself, not just against somebody that may be trying to assault you, but the legal system as well. Because if you've got 5 people, standing around and they turn around and tell the police, oh no, this guy hit the other one first.
That's right.
Okay,
Regardless of the verbal abuse that happened.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, yeah, if you're in the Ukraine right now, you sure don't want to wait, and wait to have somebody else strike you first. You've got to defend yourself. The first
whoever's
assault
coming,
happened
right.
yesterday. So it's already happened. So and this, the same thing applies to martial arts, but the way to do it is, and the way most people is, you've got to train to where you respond fast enough that you see the punch coming, and you react and hit him before you get hit. And so you're striking first, but the assault happens the second. He may not even say a word. You can see it, you can feel it when you're experienced enough.
The shoulder twitch is gonna
you can feel somebody's energy, and kind of know what they have in mind before they actually attack you.
And I was talking to someone about this the other day, because I train on the bag most days, right? And the person was like, "Why do you train on the bag all the time?" And I was like, "Well, it's the same thing. You train 10,000 punches, but you never throw a real one. You know what I mean? Because then if you have to throw the real one, you've done it 10,000 times. You know that combination. When I'll swing the bag at myself. It's like, okay, so the bag's coming, dodge.
Exactly.
What am I going to do with that person, with that thing? And then if it's muscle memory, if it happens in real life, I don't want it to happen. I'm not going to go looking for it. However, if it does happen, then that training is where it comes out. And I think what I was thinking too while you were talking, Bohdi, was like, the Book of Five Rings, Miyamoto Musashi. Right. It's like, before you could become a warrior, you had to master the father, the artist, the healer, the lover, and I think that's part of the big problem with men in Australia. I imagine in America, and as a global society, we've lost sight of that we are actually a multifaceted, multi-parted being, and some of the softer sides, we need to understand those. Yes, you need to be the warrior. You need to understand how to defend yourself, and you need to be fit and strong and healthy. That's the best thing for you. However, you need to, the artist, the lover, the healer, and the father need to be honored as well, and they need to be understood. I think it's so
you have
important.
To have the whole package.
Yes, yeah,
and that's one of the things I see in the martial arts. A lot of martial artists, they are single-minded just in the training part. And when I say a training, I'm talking about the physical training.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And so much of the martial arts world has now basically stopped teaching students character traits, or any of the wisdom that goes along with it. Even the founder of Shotokan Karate, Genshin Funakoshi, actually said, the purpose of karate is the perfection of character.
Yes.
He didn't say it's to perfect your roundhouse kick. And a lot of people say, well, that was him. That's not real. That's not real life. You don't use that on the street. And it goes back to what the example I just gave you. Well, how many times have you had to use your martial arts on the street lately?
That's right.
Well,
exactly.
I haven't, but 10 years ago, I did so well. So you've gone 10 years, you haven't had to use your martial arts on the street, but you'll be using all the rest of the stuff that I teach, the wisdom, the philosophy, the spiritual side. You'll use that every day. And they don't seem to quite grasp that, yeah, but you need to keep your skills up. Well, you can do both at the same time.
Do you think is that another, has that become a victim to the instant gratification society that we've created, Bohdi? Do you think that's part of that? I mean, obviously, I learned martial arts in the 80s into the 90s, right? So back then, I can remember Taekwondo was the first official martial art that I studied. And there was a little fella who was not the master. I can't remember the Taekwondo. Anyway, I feel bad now. Anyway, he was kicking a bag when I first rocked up there, and he's fly kicking this bag, and it's pretty much touching the roof, right? He's 5.5 foot, and I'm like, wow, that's awesome. But no, the group that we were a part of, we didn't get to hit a bag for ages, right? It was about that sitting down and the balance, and how do you do this And what are you thinking in order to achieve that balance? That's what he went through with us for 6 months before we even got into that stuff.
Yeah, you don't see that anymore.
No.
And part of it is, hey, I'm sure you know this as well. It's much easier to focus on punching and kicks and you're moving and active than to sit and meditate.
Yeah.
That takes more discipline than, getting in the gym, lifting weights, punching, doing your kicks,
absolutely
training, sparring.
Yeah.
To stop, make yourself stop and meditate for 30 minutes and take an hour to study, wisdom and philosophy. That takes more discipline than it does to do the training.
Absolutely.
And so it's much easier for them. They go in, they train, they do, whatever they're doing that night in the training, and they're done. So they train, a lot of these classes are hour and a half. Okay. So they go do that. That's what, hour and a half, an hour out of 24 hours in a day. They still can do the other stuff, but they don't discipline themselves to do it.
No.
If they even know to do it, because they're not, a lot of the kids, they're not getting taught this stuff to start
they don't,
with.
mate.
As a teacher.
Absolutely. Well, I try and I ask that question, of young men. It's like, what happened to integrity, boys? What happened to loyalty? What happened to honor? What happened to respect?
Right.
What happened to being a gentleman? What happened to these things that used to separate us as good men? It seems to me these days we're going to stab each other in the back for $1. It's like, that's not who we are. That's not, you want to be, like you say, you talk about the men of code or, the warrior wisdom, or that's not, these philosophers and these men that have come down through the ages to provide these profound statements and these teachings are here to separate us from that minutia of the society that we've created. And I think that's half the problem, Bohdi. I think we're that lost, especially men. We're that lost. We don't know where we are. And, if we, you should just send your books to everybody, mate. You know what I mean? Read these and then get back to me. You know what I mean?
Well, this one is, that's why I wrote this book. If I can get it on the camera here.
I can see, the men of the code. I can't believe I don't have that one. It's unlocking the code.
That's exactly why I wrote this, is because the kids are not getting it today. I don't know. Is it showing up?
It's in the top. It's in the back right-hand corner in your feed, mate. So they can. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yep.
So, I wrote this because so many kids are not getting. They're not getting taught at home. You're a teacher. I used to be a teacher, and well, I'm sure it's the same in Australia, but during parent-teacher conferences, some of these parents would come in and you were like, wow, now I see why this kid's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
He had no parents. I had, it's parent-teacher conferences are very interesting. I had this couple come in. Everybody in school was having problems with this one kid. And in my class, I was very strict. I didn't put up with any garbage. I don't put up with garbage in my life, and I wasn't going to do it in the classroom.
No.
And, so I kind of had him under control. He was out of control everywhere else. And it was parent-teacher conference, and I had really cracked down on him the week before. And so he said, well, my mom and dad are coming for parent-teacher conference. So I thought, oh, great. I'm going to hear it. I'm going to get chewed out. And this and that.
Yeah.
So and then they walk in the room, and I'm thinking in the back of my mind, oh, crap. Comes in, this big guy, big beer gut. He's got his gang, motorcycle gang leather vest on with his patches, cut off sleeves, and his wife looked, rougher than he did. And I said, hey, well, this is not going to be fun. He came in, he came over. Are you Bohdi Sanders? I said, yeah. Well, I just want to tell you, you're the best damn teacher in this school. What? He kind of caught me off guard. And I said, oh, really? He said, my son came home the other day and told me what he had done. And I asked him, well, what did the teacher do? And he said, well, Dr. Sanders said if I ever did it again, he was going to throw me through that window. and I said, I thought, oh my God, he's gonna, pound on me here.
Yeah.
And he said, I wish these other teachers would be like you. He said, you're the only teacher that I've come to tonight that hadn't, sugar coated everything, because he had asked me, well, how's he doing? I said, well, he doesn't do a damn thing in here.
Yeah.
And he said, well, you're the only one that told me that. He said, every other teacher, just how great he is, what a great kid he is, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I knew for a fact he wasn't, because they had more problems with him than I did.
Yeah.
And he said, you're the best teacher here, because he said, you teach like teachers used to teach. And it just went on. And I said, wow, I didn't expect that. And these kids are not getting disciplined. They don't get no discipline in the school, because everybody's afraid to get sued. They're not getting taught character traits or morals, honor, character, integrity, because they figure, well, we can't. It's not up to us to push our ideals and our way of living on everybody else. They should learn it themselves. Well, where do they think they're going to learn it? If they're not getting it at home, not getting it in schools, where else are they going to learn it from? Their buddies in school, which probably don't know any more about it than they do.
No, that's right.
Movies, TV shows, and music. And so what are they learning from movies and music today? Nothing that has to do with honor and character. I can guarantee
capitalistic, materialistic bullshit is what they're learning from that stuff, mate.
Exactly.
Yeah, you'll enjoy this, right? So I don't teach, I teach young adults, right? So basically I spent a long time in a few different professions. And so what I've done is I've got the teaching qualifications in those professions. So I teach young adults, right? So I'm getting these kids at 18 through to 25, 26, somewhere in there, some older, some younger, but that's the core demographic that I teach. And when I was doing face-to-face classes, the courses I used to do were 8 weeks long. And I'd get these little punks come in, they'd failed high school. And the thing is, the reason that I think they fail is they don't have teachers like you, Bohdi, because the thing is, I get them in here, and you'll like this, right? So we have a morning break. We call it Smoko down here in Australia. And it's like, okay, if you come back late from Smoko, 20 push-ups. And they go, oh yeah, ha, ha, ha. But then what I would do is I would come back late on purpose and I'd do 20 push-ups. And then it's like, oh, if the teacher's doing 20 push-ups, then what are we going to do? And I would make them do it.
Yeah.
And, I had the manager of the training organization that I was working with. She's like, do you make these boys do push-ups? I said, yes, I do. I said, she goes, did you send some of the kids out of class home today? I said, yes, I did. Why? Because they misbehaved. They disrupted the class. Get out. If you want to think about it, come back tomorrow. And do you know what happens though? At the end of those 8 weeks, you should have seen some of the parties we used to have as graduations. You know what I mean? And I could show you messages, and I'm still in touch with hundreds of my students, Bohdi, because I was the first person that said, no, that's bullshit. And it's bullshit. So don't do it, and I'd ask these questions of these people. Integrity is doing the right thing when no one's looking. Do you use integrity in your life on a day-to-day basis, or do you not? When was the last time you showed honor? When was the last time you were a gentleman? And inevitably I get, oh, he said, she said. It's like, no, that doesn't make any difference to what you do, right? Your choice and your actions are not governed by other people, right?
Right.
Being a gentleman in 2022 is a bit of a tough gig. Sometimes you'll get abused for it, right?
Right.
Does that mean you don't do it? No, it doesn't mean you don't do it.
Well, that's my favorite quote is from Baltasar Gracian. And it says, the man of principle doesn't forget who he is because of what others are.
Yes, absolutely.
And if you just remember that, so-and-so did this. So what? It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
And that's part of what I teach in the art of inner peace is, you got to not let the actions of others affect your life. You don't have to allow their actions to upset your inner peace, to make you angry, to make you sad, to make you feel bad. I mean, nobody can make you angry.
No.
Nobody can make you sad or feel bad. You decide, to feel those things. You decide to get angry. You decide, okay, I don't like what he's doing, so I'm going to get mad about it. I mean, you don't think those thoughts, but that's what's happening.
Is it, I'm trying to remember, what is anger? It's the punishment we give ourselves for someone else's mistake. Is that the quote? Or it's along those lines,
something like that.
Yeah.
And there's another that I think came from Buddha. And he said, anger is like holding a hot coal in your hand, and getting ready to throw it at somebody else. You're the one that gets burned.
That's right. Yeah. I think I was thinking as well, because I know I do, one of my passions, and along with this sort of stuff, consciousness and, helping men and that sort of stuff, is ancient civilization, megalithic civilizations and stuff like that, the pyramids and all that stuff. And I had an experience last year with some of those researchers in that field. And look, not similar stuff. It doesn't matter what the field is, right? I am an objective, critical thinker, Bohdi. So I don't tie myself to any ideas. I'm not attached to any ideas. I will give everything its merit and make my own decision, And because of that, I got ostracized last year. And I suppose what I wanted to touch on is that part of your books, your new books, and I allowed that to happen, right? And this is, I know we're talking esoterically about philosophy, but it's hard work, I mean, I've been, on the warrior path, or, however you want to put it, for a very long time. And last year I allowed some people to affect what I was doing, and it's the discipline and the mental discipline. No one's perfect, I think, and we've got to continually work at it. And, part of the whole resetting my podcast this year, this is, what's interesting, Bohdi, right? So a few months ago, I'm like, okay, no, I'm going to reset the podcast. What I do shouldn't be affected by anyone else, right?
Right.
So in the past few months, I've had excellent content. I've had some very excellent people come out of the woodwork and go, hey, can I talk to you? And then it hasn't culminated. It hasn't finished at all. But here I am talking to the guy whose books have provided me with wisdom for 5 years. So it's like, if you change your mindset and you use intention and you're aware of what you're doing, good things will happen. I think that's, it's not like you're going to win the lotto tomorrow, but it's these lessons work, but they're also hard work to maintain as well, I think, is,
Yeah. And you had touched on it just now, that you have to be consistent. I mean, developing inner peace is not, something, okay, it's like, your goal is to get a black belt. Okay, I'm going to do this, and this, keep going for a year, 2 years. I got my black belt. Okay, I'm done. I'm a black belt. That's the way a lot of people look at it. Inner peace is not a goal that you achieve one time, you put it in your pocket, you got it, and you don't have to worry about it. You have to work at it every day, throughout the day, sometimes every minute. To maintain it, and I talk about that in the book. The first thing you have to do is, your subconscious mind plays a bigger part than most people realize. You say subconscious mind, most people, they go to the subliminal CDs and stuff that came out and got popular back in, I don't know, the 80s or 90s. And that's about as far as their, thinking about the subconscious mind goes. But it's getting proven now that, what was the percentage? I think it was like 93% of all of our actions come from the subconscious mind.
Absolutely.
And in order to, if you want to change your life, if you haven't been living a life of inner peace, and you want to change your life, the first thing you got to do is cleanse your subconscious mind.
Yes.
Because you've got you've got things in your subconscious mind that's been implanted in there. So if you're in your 40s, for 4 decades, and a lot of those beliefs are incorrect,
Yep.
They're not serving you anymore.
No.
A lot of the stuff in your subconscious mind are defense mechanisms that you put into your mind to deal with whatever you were dealing with at one time, but you're not dealing with that anymore. But those thoughts are still in your subconscious mind, and they're still, directing your words, your actions, and your thoughts.
Absolutely.
Even if you don't know it. I mean, if you are used to responding a certain way and you've done it for 30 or 40 years, and somebody comes up and insults you, it's automatic. To develop that inner peace, you have to get rid of those thoughts, replace them with new thoughts that actually serve you better. And then you have to continue to not let those thoughts back in, because they will slip back in. It's easy. Somebody can push your buttons. And you know what I mean when I say push your buttons.
Absolutely.
Somebody can push your buttons, and you just forget about inner peace or being a gentleman, and you go off on them then. And you really have to fight against that. And it takes a lot of self-discipline to do that.
It does.
Developing inner peace is the easy part. Maintaining it is the difficult part.
You're totally right. It's funny, you're talking and I'm thinking early on in the podcast, we described, I like to give analogies, right? And we describe these things that don't serve you. Like you said, if you've been having the same process of thoughts for 30 years, 40 years, however old you are, it's like we described it back in the day. It's like a 6-lane highway, right? So, that's exactly it. And then when you're trying to change that process, it's like you're taking a bulldozer through the bush, like it's a bad track. It's rough and rocky, and, but the more you can change your process, then that 6-lane highway gets 1 lane chopped off it. And that road, that new process gets better, well built. And then hopefully you won't flick back to the baser levels, but inevitably you will. I think that's being human, Bohdi, isn't it? It's a constant process.
It's when I say cleanse your subconscious mind, you're changing your subconscious mind. You're not going to ever, and I don't think you will ever completely get rid of it. I like to compare it to a garden. So if you have a garden plot, and you say you've never gardened, you've never tilled it up, you just got a plot of weeds out there. So you go and you till it up, and the first year, those weeds are going to be coming up because you're tilling up and activating seeds that's been dormant, and you're going to have all kind of weeds that you have to weed. But if you keep doing that year after year, you're going to have less weeds, less weeding to do, but you're never going to have a time that your garden is completely weed free.
Never. No.
It just doesn't work like that. And it doesn't have to come, even if you cleanse that soil and you've weeded it year after year, you've gotten rid of the weeds, still seeds are going to blow from other people's gardens over into yours or other people's plot or wherever. It's never going to be a time that you don't have to work to maintain that garden.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah. And then I think it's that dreaded D word, isn't it? Discipline. Okay.
Yeah.
I think there's a misconception about, well, I mean, I know growing up in my generation, we saw discipline as punishment, right? One of the big things, because I started the podcast about 5 or 6 years ago. And so prior to that, I was very much, I nearly died in 2013, Bohdi. And basically coming out of that, it was like, okay, I've always been a studier of the wisdoms and all that sort of stuff. It's like, okay, into 2013, what am I actually doing? What's going on here? I need to sort my mental health out. I need to sort stuff out. And it was coming out of that I had to re-engage discipline. And I hadn't thought, because I'd been training most of my life, but I'd never looked at it through the discipline lens. And one of the big mental blocks that I had was that I thought discipline was punishment. And it's not. It's not. The Jocko Willink, one of his favorite sayings is discipline equals freedom, and because it is, and it does, I think if you can, it's that consistency that'll give you that retraining of your subconscious. Go back to the garden analogy. The only way your garden is going to get as weed free as you can get it is if you're out there a couple of times a week picking those weeds out. You leave it,
and that takes discipline.
Exactly.
Most people, nobody ever wants to go and weed the garden. It's not fun. It's not something you do as a hobby, or I can't wait to get home this weekend so I can weed the garden.
Yeah.
Nobody ever said that.
No, that's right.
It's it takes discipline to do anything in your life that is worth doing. I'll put it that way. If you didn't have discipline, you wouldn't get off the couch. You would just sit and watch TV all day until you go to sleep at night, get up, get a sandwich every now and then, plop back down on the couch. And a lot of people live their life like that.
They do that, don't they? Yeah.
And it's sad. And all that is a lack of discipline, because you get up in the morning and you're like, oh, I don't feel like doing anything. You go sit on the couch, you start watching TV. All of a sudden it's lunchtime. You get up, get something to eat. I'm kind of tired. You sit back down and you start watching TV. And before it's dark, I'll grab some dinner. I'm tired. I'm going to go lay in the bed and watch TV. That takes no discipline whatsoever.
No.
It takes discipline when you feel like doing nothing but sitting on the couch watching TV to go work out, go train, go for a jog, or read and study, or get up and go meditate. And meditation should be an easy thing to do. You sit down quietly, but it takes discipline to do it, because you really are not in the mood to meditate, but you're too busy. You've got so much work that needs to be done, but okay, if I keep going, I'm not going to get my meditation in today. It takes discipline to say, okay, I'm going to stop. I'm going to go do a meditation. And most people do not discipline themselves. They don't get it in school. There's rarely any discipline in school anymore.
I know.
And so they're not getting it at home. They don't get it in school. And by the time they're adults, what they have learned is to do whatever they're in the mood to do.
That's right.
And there's no discipline to that. And we're seeing the results of it in our culture today.
We are, mate. And like, as a teacher with the courses that I used to do, I would take unruly, smart-ass little punks, and in 8 weeks, like, I know some of these kids, they've got apprenticeships now. They are tradesmen. They were into drugs and all these sorts of things. It only took 8 weeks, Bohdi. It took 8 weeks of them being with me. And they did the work. I was just the facilitator. I just made sure that I kept them in line.
Yeah.
But that process of the discipline that I showed them, in 8 weeks, they were, oh, wow, this is actually what we're supposed to do,
Exactly.
And making that little bit of extra effort makes the difference. I've said this to my wife a lot. I mean, I've got a wife, I've got 2 small children. Well, they're not there, 7 and 4 now, however. And, she's like, how do you get up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning to work out? I wouldn't have the energy to do that. I'm like, neither do I. I don't want to do it. You know what I mean? I don't necessarily feel like it. I like riding my mountain bikes, one of the things I do. And I've told my students this, and it's like, I'll do a 25-kilometer ride, which is 12 miles or something. And, the first 2 miles, my brain's going, you'll be right. Turn around. You can go home. It's okay. You don't have to do it. Yeah. But once you punch through that and you get past that mental battle, then you're free, and you can go and you can ride and you can come back and you feel better, but it takes that discipline to punch through that mindset, because it's so easy. It's so easy. I think they say you've got 5 seconds. Like, once you make a decision, you've got 5 seconds to get it to actually action that decision, or you won't do it.
Right.
And especially with working out or meditation, it seems to be personal growth decisions in this modern day are much harder than, as you say,
well, it's because we have so many other distractions.
Yeah.
And, before the internet, or before computers, I didn't have a computer until Oh, I had 2 kids before I had my first computer.
Yeah.
And, think about back in, say, 1980. When I grew up, I was in high school in the 70s and 80s. And we had a TV with rabbit ears that got 3 stations, and they were snowy.
Yeah.
So
At the best of
you
times.
did, you weren't really tempted to sit and just watch TV,
Yeah.
or stare at the computer, or scroll on social media. Because there was no such thing. You sit there. If you're bored, you got an option. You get up and do something, or you sit there and be bored. And that was your option. Today, hey, they can sit and stare at their phone no matter where they're at, or they can sit in front of the computer and just scroll down, and it's hypnotic.
Yeah.
Like scrolling down on social media, it's hypnotic. It's like you're looking at a group of pictures, and you see 5 at a time, and you say, well, I want to see what the next 5 are, the next 5, the next 5. And it's addicting. And it's so easy for people now just to sit and do nothing and waste time, because they have so much. They get tired of playing on their phone. They can do stuff on the computer. They get tired of that. They can watch,
Netflix,
a multitude of
yeah,
TV channels,
that's right,
or Netflix or whatever.
Yeah.
And so they have so many more distractions today than we had growing up.
Yeah.
That it's I think for them to have discipline is much harder than it was for us. And I was at a small school in Missouri, and my wife and I were teaching, and it was in the middle of nowhere in the sticks. And so I had a black belt at the time. I was first degree black belt, and I decided to start teaching Shotokan karate, because those kids didn't have anything to do there. It was just, there was no sports, no nothing. It was just in the middle of nowhere. And so I started it, and I told them on the first class, I said, if I find out from your teachers you're being a jerk, you're not doing your work, you're being impolite, or if I find this out from your parents at home, you're out of here. I won't teach kids like that.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I turned quite a few kids away, from my karate class. And other guys said, well, you should have kept those kids in there and taught them to do right. Well, no, first they need to have the motivation to do right. You don't take a punk, put him in a martial arts class, and expect him to not go and bully somebody down the line if you're not teaching the principles and teaching him, when to defend himself, when not to. Teaching him you don't use martial arts against other people. You don't be a bully. And a lot of places are not teaching character traits to the kids.
No.
And I did, and I got the feedback I got within 2 or 3 weeks of starting that class. I had teachers coming and thanking me, because trouble kids, I gave them each a chance. They got one chance.
One
and that
chance,
was it. And they said, they've been polite. They say, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. They do their work. I don't know what you're doing, but please keep it up.
Well, you've just shown them a bit of discipline, but you've also given them a chance. You've given them a bit of accountability, a bit of responsibility, and if they take that chance and use it, you're going to give them respect.
Yeah. And most of them want that.
Exactly.
They do, but nobody is giving it to them because they're afraid, oh, I can't do that. Or, I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to get sued. The parents are going to come and complain, or, the kids should make up their own mind about this. Well, kid, you're a parent and a teacher for a reason. The kids are not able just to make up their own mind about, what's right and wrong, what is good character traits, how they should talk. They learn that from somewhere. Absolutely. And that's why you're as a parent are supposed to be teaching those kids. Yeah. As a teacher, you should be teaching those kids. When I was in high school, I had a great principal, and he would beat the crap out of you if you were in the wrong. He had a paddle about this long, about this wide, and he would tear you up with it. And I kind of grew up. I was a fighter in high school. I kind of grew up a street fighter, and that we were at a track meet one time, and there was a fight behind the bleachers there. And I watched the fight, and this one kid, and he got his butt kicked. And the next day I got called into the office. I said, well, I don't know why I'm getting called into the office. I didn't fight. I just was standing back there watching. And the principal called me in, and this is the difference between good educators and crappy educators.
Yeah.
He called me in, he sit me down, he said, I hear you were at that fight yesterday. I said, well, I didn't have anything to do with it. I was watching. He said, well, you should have done something, because I've seen you fight and you could have taken care of this. He said, you should have stepped in there and stopped the fight before, the guy got knocked out, he got beat up pretty good. And he said, you should have stepped in there. He said, if you would have stepped in there, the other guy would have stopped immediately, because you have a reputation and they don't, he wouldn't have wanted to fight you.
Yeah.
He said, there's a time to fight and a time not to fight. He said, you need to know the difference. And that's,
wow.
You don't hear that today. You would not hear that in any public school today.
No way.
And that, I've never had a principal like that. I've taught at several different schools.
Yeah.
And they're all, even if a kid is getting bullied and he stands up for himself and just defends himself, the basic, I'm not talking about taking the other guy down. I'm just talking about basic self-defense. He gets kicked out of school. They call the cops on him, everything.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. That's not teaching him anything.
No.
It's, it really is a sad situation we're in.
Oh, it is. We've lost sight, we've lost sight of so many things, Bohdi, and it's concerning, because I see it in these young people. It's like, and I see it in people my age as well. It's like, I get people my age going, how can you talk about this stuff? So I talk about this stuff because, I'm one of those men, Bohdi, that I really try and practice what I preach.
Right.
Every day. Am I perfect at it? Of course I'm not. Do I get it right all the time? Of course I don't. But do I do my best every day? And look, I've got 6 of your books, and I've got at least, 300 of your memes saved in my phone, because these things are what we need to try and do. I suppose, mate, what are we, when I knew we were sitting down, I'm like, is there a way forward, mate? What's your perception? You've studied all these great masters. You've written multiple books. I can imagine for every quote you put in, you probably didn't put in 10. So I know that you've read all the works. How do we? Because if you get another person or a small group of people and showed them this conversation, they would say, yeah, absolutely, I totally agree with you. That's a great idea. But as a collective, we can't figure it out. So it's like, what do we do, mate? What is a way forward? What's your perception?
That's where your vote comes into play.
Yeah.
If you vote the wrong people into office and they're controlling the school system, the government agencies, and they have an opposite view of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's the wisdom, the character traits. They look at, there is never any reason for violence, ever, none. Hey, anybody who believes that doesn't know what the hell they're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I guarantee you, they don't believe it either. You know what? You put them in a dark alley, and 2 or 3 gang members come up there, and they're just going to stand there and get beat down and not even try to defend themselves. They don't believe that. They'll fight with every fingernail they got.
It's a bit harsh, Bohdi, but I think the one is that, how do you turn a pacifist into someone who loves violence? You put a gun to their child's head. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
That's harsh, but that's the reality. You know what I mean? It's like, if you don't, I was thinking while you were talking earlier, I used to work in oil and gas, right? So we worked on oil rigs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Now, back in the day, if we were on the rig floor and 2 boys had a problem, right, you'd drop it. But then the deal was, after work, 5 minutes behind the water tank, the first one who bleeds loses, right? And guess what had happened? You'd go around the water tank, you'd sort it out, someone would get a cut lip or, a cut on their eyebrow or whatever.
Yeah.
Most of the time, you bought that bloke a beer later that
Right.
night, and
Exactly.
everything was fine.
And that's how I grew up. In school, we go out on the weekend. I never had a good friend that we didn't have a fight at some point.
Oh yeah, you got it. Yeah.
And after the fight, the next day we were friends again.
Probably better.
Today,
friends.
the kids
Probably
can't do
friends.
that. Yeah. Today they can't do that. If two kids get in a fight at school now, they're dealing with social services, the police, they get suspended from school. And a lot of times, they kick them out of school for the rest of the year. They try to destroy their life. And it is just ridiculous. And that's because, I'll just be blunt, we have morons running our school systems. Absolutely. And a lot of our government. And that's the bottom line. And that's until that changes, we're not going to see the change trickle down. But people are starting to wake up. I think that they're starting to wake up. They see their freedoms disappearing, and they're starting to wake up and stand up for it. I see it in Australia. I see it in Canada. I see it here in the States. I see it in England. They're waking up all over, and they're standing up for their freedom, and they're taking it back. Yeah, absolutely. And when they do, they're going to see, okay, we tried this. Whatever they want to do, everybody's okay. Everyone's cool. And it doesn't work. Everybody's not okay. It's not okay to be an asshole. No. And it's not okay to think that I'm here to live my life according to whatever you see fit. Yeah. You're not here to live by my rules. I'm not here to live by your rules. And you're damn sure not here to tell me how to raise my kids. Absolutely. And that's what's happening. We're seeing it in, across the world, and that can't happen. Parents have to stand up like they're doing in many places here. They're standing up. Even in San Francisco this week, they recalled 3 radical school board members and kicked them off the school board. Good. And so it's starting to spread throughout the states. People have had enough of this garbage, and they're turning back to common sense. And what I teach in my books, it's proven wisdom. Yeah, absolutely. I have wisdom quotes from the time of the pharaohs on up to modern day, and everything in between, and from all areas of the world. And what's interesting when you study this, and I've studied all the religions. I've studied wisdom from throughout the world, and when you start to do it, you see that it's intertwined. It's universal. Absolutely. Yeah. And what has happened is a lot of people in our modern culture have decided, we don't need that, the old wisdom, the ancient wisdom, that's out of date. We're more advanced, and we're more intelligent than that. And they blow it off, and they think that, they don't have to even think about that kind of stuff. Yeah. And they've lost it. And they're finding out, not only did they not have common sense, they don't have any sense whatsoever. No, it's unbelievable. Like, and I've said this a fair bit. It's, I think at some point, I don't know when it happened, but we serve the system now. The system doesn't serve us, right? Exactly. These leaders that aren't, a leader's little fingernail, think that we serve them. That's not how this works, right? Yeah. They serve us, right? Exactly. And I think what's happening around the world, and it is growing every day, is that people are realizing, hang on a minute, there's 150 of us and there's 5 of you. How about you shut up? Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because what you're doing obviously is not serving me. It's not serving, if we're talking about school board, it's not serving me. It's not serving my kids. And I think it's going to reverberate. I mean, my hope is, look, I think we're in for a bit of a rough time for the next little while, but I'm hoping that, my children, as they grow up, will maybe get a reset into. Well, I think it's going to happen before that. I think we're in the initial stages of that happening, and people are waking up, like I said, all around the West. And I think that common sense is going to come back into fashion.
Yeah.
And what I put in my books, I consider common sense.
It is common sense.
teaching.
It is common sense. It is.
And you would not believe how many emails and letters and stuff I receive telling me, oh my God, I love your teachings. I've never heard anything like this before. I've never seen anybody teach this. And I'm just like, every time I hear it, even I never get used to it. It's like, how could you not have heard this kind of teachings before? I just can't even comprehend it. And it's just, and these are not kids. These are adults.
Yeah, I know.
And then you start thinking, okay, if these adults have never heard, what I teach about character, discipline, honor, integrity, all the different character traits. Okay, they've never heard of it. They certainly didn't teach it to their kids. So these kids, have no clue. They had no chance to develop this. They don't just develop it on their own. And I've seen, I got a couple of more interviews set up here in March, and they're both with young guys. I think in like 23 or 24, they're doing podcasts, and they're both doing it on teaching young men to become man of integrity and gentlemen. And I'm thinking, okay, that gives me hope. We're seeing guys in their early 20s seeing that this is missing, and they're starting to try to bring this back.
Yes, I see that as well.
So I think people are waking up, and I think it's going to be the younger generation that changes things. I think so too. Yeah, I think there's a generation. So like I'll be 39 in a couple of weeks' time, and there's like a generation below me is a bit lost, right? I don't know what happened to those guys. I think they're the ones that came up with the internet, right? That's but the ones below them, the 22, 23, 25-year-olds, I'm seeing the same thing. Like I'm getting these guys come to me in Australia through my podcast and through my teaching, and they're like, man, I want to hear more about this stuff. Can you please teach me? We're lost. I said, I know you're lost. Why do you think I'm teaching this stuff? Why do you think I'm trying to share this esoteric wisdom, right? And I think there's an arrogance about modern society that needs to be nipped in the bud, because how is it that why would we pay attention to Marcus Aurelius? Why would we pay attention to, all these great Asian philosophers and European philosophers and, Indian philosophers, all these people, this stuff that's been around for 10,000 years? How arrogant are you to think that you know better? The reason it has survived 10,000 years because it is profound, because it is true, right? Exactly.
And what you find with a lot of these philosophers, they're really just putting a twist on the same idea of that universal truth of discipline, morals, all these things. It's just different interpretations of the universal truth of what it is to be human. And I think that the distractions that have been put in front of us, and look, you're a bit older than me. My generation, I still used to handwrite letters, like that's the thing. And when I was a kid, I used to handwrite letters. Oh
man, I forgot to dye my beard.
I used to handwrite letters when I was a kid. You know what I mean? So it's like, I've seen that go through, right?
Yeah.
And I lost my train of thought. I saw you when you said
I'm sorry.
No, I think we were just talking about the fact that this esoteric wisdom comes to us for a reason. These profound
I think the
things,
younger generation is seeing that the social media and the scrolling and the shows, the music, they're seeing that something's missing, it's empty.
Yes.
And they're getting this feeling, and they're like, okay, this, they see the older movies with John Wayne and stuff, and they say, look at men back then and look at men today. What, something is missing here. We're not growing up to be, those kind of men.
No.
And they're starting to kind of go inside and see, what is missing, and what, something is not quite right. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but something is missing. And that's bringing them back to, the character traits that we're talking about, the morals, the character, the integrity, honor, because, and Hollywood knows it. They know that those things, when they show movies like that, they take off. They're good movies, and people like them because people want to actually live their life like that. They want to be a man of character, a man of the code, and have a code and stand up for what's right, even if it means standing alone. They want to be that kind of person, but nobody's taught them how to do it. And that's what I try to teach in my books.
Well, it's probably, look, as we begin to wrap it up, mate, I think I want your opinion. Was it a little scary to you how quickly people didn't do that over the last few years? I mean, it was a bit scary to me. There was obviously, there's a percentage of men and women for that matter that have tried to stand up. However, geez, a lot of them didn't, you know what I mean?
It's very scary. And it's, to go back, I used to teach history, like I told you earlier. And I just couldn't even comprehend it. How could the Jewish people in Nazi Germany not stand up and fight? They know that the Nazis were going to kill them, we're going to shoot them, we're going to exterminate them, and yet they just walked to the edge of the pit and stood there. If somebody's going to shoot me, I'm not going to walk to the pit, make it easy on them and walk to the pit and turn my back so they can shoot me in the back of the head. If I know somebody is going to kill me, I'm going to go down fighting.
Absolutely.
They might kill me, but I'm going to try my best to take one or more of them with
exactly. me. As many as coming with me as well. Yeah.
And we're seeing, I could never understand how they did that, what they were, what their thought processes were. And we're seeing it replayed. We're not to that same, level, but we're seeing it replayed today. And it's like, okay, they're taking our freedoms away. Surely, I bet people are going to start standing up. Okay. What are you doing? You're not standing up either.
No.
Everybody is waiting on somebody else to stand up.
I know.
And that's starting to change.
Yes,
you can see it in Canada. You can see it in England. You can see it here in the United States. People are fed up with it. And it's almost like they're waiting on somebody to lead them and to stand up. And when they stand up, it gives the rest of them courage to stand up as well. And the more, it's like a snowball. The more you got to have somebody that starts it. It starts with a small little ball of snow, but the more you roll it, the bigger it gets, and the more momentum it takes going down the hill until it that small snowball turns into a giant ball of snow. And I think that we're starting to see people are no longer waiting. This is not acceptable, and they're standing up. Other people see it, they get motivated, they start standing up, then more people see it, and the more that happens, the stronger the people get, and the weaker the opposition gets.
I think that one of the key things that you just said there that I wanted to ask about is how the leadership thing's a big issue. It's like there is no politician that I can think of anywhere in the world, and I keep abreast of global situations, right? So I know there's not a politician that I can think of that is actually a leader. None of them.
Well, that's because politicians are not leaders.
No.
They're two different animals.
You've
got leaders, and then you have politicians. They're not even the same species. It's two different. A politician only cares about one thing. I served as a page, for the House of Representatives. And when I was growing up, it was kind of like a internship. And my cousin was a representative at the time, and so he kind of got me into politics. And I went up to the Capitol, was with him, and I was so shocked and blown away by it was a total joke.
Yeah.
You know, I would go in, the Congress would be in session. You would have some people sleeping. You'd have some people reading the comics, and you have somebody up there giving a speech. Nobody cared. They weren't listening. They weren't influencing. They were standing up there, you know, just for the sound bites, you know, for the camera. Nobody listened to him. Nobody cared. And they said, okay, it's time for a vote. They would, you know, wake their buddy up and put the paper down, and you got a red button and a green button. And they would either hit yes or no on the, and then go back to doing what they were doing. And that happened every day. At the end of the day, they would rush back to their condo or hotel room to see, you know, who got on the news, what the news bites are, you know, who got on this. And then, okay, yeah, after, you know, sitting there watching the news for about an hour, they get ready to go out with a lobbyist every night. This happened every single night I was there.
Right.
Go out to the lobbyist at Ruth Chris Steakhouse. And, you know, I remember I went out with them, you know, 3 times. We went to that, and that's, you know, Ruth Chris Steakhouse, really good food, very expensive. And that was back in the late 70s. And each time we went out, it was like a $900 bill. There was 4 of us in the late 70s. They sit there and drink
That's
wine.
a lot. $900 in the 70s.
Yeah,
oh my God. Yeah.
And the lobbyist paid for the whole thing. And, you know, it was just buying votes. And then after they got done with the lobbyist, you know, I was underage at the time, you know, was a, you know, intern for kids. And he would drop me back off at the hotel, and he would go to the whorehouses.
Right.
And then they would come back, and, you know, the honorable so-and-so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where the hell's the honor at? You know, I didn't see it. And it was like that day after day after day. And it's just photo ops, you know, lobby money, and it's just a cycle. Those are not leaders.
No.
Those are politicians, you know, looking at what's in it for me.
So how do
They're
we
not
change,
looking at what's
how do we
in it.
change it, mate? How do we, because I mean, I know you said, look, obviously your vote's important, and it is.
Yeah.
However, you're voting for that person you just described. So it's like,
yeah, well, what we need is regular people running for office. You know, we don't get regular people like you and me running for office because we're busy raising a family, you know, trying to make a living, you know, doing what we do. You know, the politicians are people who basically have done very little their whole life,
apart from
and
that.
they want, you know, here in the United States, I'm not sure how it is elsewhere. You know, if you're in the Senate for 1 term, you've got your retirement for life. You can be in there 1 time, you get voted out the next election, you still get, you know, whatever that retirement pack that
you get like money. It's same down here. Yeah. If you make it to a certain level, you get a pension for life, and
you get the pension for life.
And all that sort of stuff.
In the Congress, if you're in there for 2 terms, you get it for life.
Yeah.
They're there to line their pockets. And you get into the Congress and Senate, I don't know exactly how much their salary is. I haven't looked it up lately, but it's under 150 a year. And most of those guys come out of there being multi-millionaires. Okay, tell me this, how do you work in a place for 10, 15 years? You're making 100 to 150,000 a year at the most. And yet when you leave there, you have, you know, $50 million in the bank. You know, that's, you know, we need leaders who have the character to put the country first, the people first, and themselves last, and see themselves as a servant, not a leader, or not, you know, some big,
see themselves as a servant of the people, as opposed to a tyrant or that narcissistic personality that seems to attract it. You know, I think it's
you know, we're go ahead.
I was just sort of, I mean, people power. Like, is it you know, this if we get back to the books and the esoteric wisdom, you know, we talk a lot about a council of elders or a council of people, you know, and I think, you know, one of the balances we're missing is that it needs to be men and women. You know, I think, you know, men have got a lot to pay for at the moment, right? All the problems that we have at the moment falls on the shoulders of men. There needs to be if you go back to, say, tribal, like, part of the ancient stuff to look at in a tribal situation, you would have a council. There'd be a men's council, there'd be a women's council, and then they would come together and they would make a decision based on the evidence that was provided for the betterment of the tribe.
And that's the key, the betterment for the tribe, the betterment for the community, the people. And we have too many people that are in it just for what's best for them.
Exactly.
How much money can they make? How much fame can they get? And how can they use this position as a stepping stone to move up higher? And, and we're seeing that change here in the United States. Just this last election in New Jersey, which is a very liberal state, it's they almost always vote for a Democrat. We had a trucker there. I think he spent $250 on his campaign, and he won his Senate seat. People are waking up, and and that's what we need: regular people that. And I know Trump was unpopular with some people, but that's what made Trump good. Is he was a regular guy who had he had businesses. He came up working. He had lots of money. He started with $1 million from his dad. He had a much easier start than most people. But he took that, he parlayed it into a couple of $1 billion.
Well, I see Trump is the stick in the spokes. It's like that you guys had enough. And look, you can say, I've always, now that you look, even now, it's like, what is history going to say about Trump? Because letting Granddad take the wheel of the free world, wasn't the best idea. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's an understatement. And I know his personality, Trump's personality, was very abrasive. His language was not what people are used to.
No.
But I mean, if you take away the money, he's a regular guy, a businessman, and he was there. He didn't have to do it. He has his businesses. He was very popular before he became president.
That's right.
Before he started running for president, all these people who hate Trump now, they loved him. They wanted photo ops with him.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But he was a regular guy, and he went in there, and he wasn't going to play the game because he had money. He didn't need money. He couldn't be bought. And that's what we need is regular businessmen, people who have some common sense, who it would be ideal if they lived by some decent principles and standards.
It's integrity again, isn't it, mate?
Integrity and honor, and are in there not for how much money they can make or to parlay that position into becoming whatever else, but are there to serve the people and to bring the country back and make it the best it can be for people and for our freedoms.
And I think the morals,
I think we're seeing that.
The morals as well. It's like, if you're the president, you're making $800,000 a year. Why do you need more than that?
Yeah.
Like, why? Like,
I think the president makes maybe, I don't know, 200, 250. I haven't looked lately.
No.
But I mean, so think about this. The last election, both sides spent billions of dollars.
Yeah.
To get a job that pays $250,000 a year.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make sense. It's like, okay, would you invest billions of dollars
to make 250 grand?
Yeah, just go spend billions of dollars to make 250,000 a year. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. There's so much that's going on in our governments, and people need to take the governments back.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's there for one purpose, to serve and protect the people.
Exactly.
Not to ride roughshod over the people or control every aspect of their lives, but to serve the people. And they've lost that. And that's the main thing that's going wrong with our countries today.
I think I saw a tweet from an NFL guy the other day, and he's like, I can't remember the guy's name. I don't know many of the players, but it was a good tweet. He was like, how come as a professional NFL player, I can't bet on the games, which I'm totally okay with, then how come politicians can know the movements in the stock market? You know what I mean? How come
Exactly.
what's the difference? Like, there is no difference.
There's not any difference. Like I said, the lobbyists are spending, millions and millions of dollars, trying to get a vote and doing this, and they get vacations paid. They get dinners, like I was talking about. They get everything paid for, and it's because they're trying to influence the vote.
And I think
the same, the companies are doing the same thing. Pfizer, as we talked about earlier. I'm not going to get into all that. But
we're not doing that today. Not today.
But anyway, people are seeing that, and this is part of what has disrupted most people's inner peace.
Absolutely,
they're not living at peace. They're living full of fear, worry, stress, and you can't be living your life with every second of the day, being fearful of one thing, or worried about everything, or stressed out. I mean, those are not they are not compatible with inner peace.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
And so I have a whole chapter on worry and a chapter on fear in the book, because you have to deal with those things in order to live a life of inner peace.
Well, I think fear is a big one, isn't it? I think fear, it's like fear holds you back from everything, like
it's fear and worry is a waste of time.
Absolutely.
And I give the example of a venomous snake in the book, and people, so many people are scared of snakes. I'm sure, from what I've seen on TV, it's probably a big time fear down in Australia.
Oh, we don't worry about it, mate. Just don't poke them. It's okay. Just leave them alone.
Yeah. And you don't, and people say, well, you have to be afraid of snakes. They can kill you. What? Just because something can kill you doesn't mean you have to be afraid of it. You have to be knowledgeable about,
aware,
their environment, how they behave, what to expect from them, how to stay away from them. But you don't have to walk around scared of them.
No, that's right.
Yeah, you don't have to live in fear.
I mean, that's the analogy from overseas. People's like, oh, all the most dangerous animals live in Australia. Everything's going to kill you. Well, it's like, yeah, okay, maybe, but as an Aussie, we don't. Well, as an old school Aussie bloke, I don't worry about that stuff, right? You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't that. It was a few months ago now, but I was riding. I'd like to ride my mountain bike, and riding my mountain bike down a track. And there was a red-bellied black snake. Now, they're not super venomous, but they can potentially kill you if you don't get it treated correctly. Now, I didn't stop the bike and turn around and go, I knew what the snake would do, so I went around the back of it. Now, did it turn and have a bit of a go at me? Yeah, it did, but I knew it wasn't going to get me. There's no need to overreact. I mean, again, you talk about worry and fear. As like I said earlier, I'm literally cut off, mate. The road out of my town is flooded as we sit. It hasn't stopped raining the entire time we've been talking. Am I worried about that? No, because I know where I am. I'm fine. I've got fuel. I've got a generator. I've got food. Where my wife and my kids are okay. What's the point? Of course I'm going to do this interview.
And Triffin, if you would have, instead of doing this interview, sit there and been stressed out and worried about the water rising, and that, we've been, talking, for a while now, you wouldn't be in any different position right now than you are right, now. It's,
I'm a lot better now.
Change one thing.
I'm a lot better now because I've had the pleasure of talking to you.
But worry never changes anything.
No.
Or never. Let me take that back. It never changes anything for the better.
Yeah.
What worry does do a lot of things inside your body.
Yeah.
And I go into that in detail in the book. I'm not going to cover it all, but it has a lot of effects on your health and your mind. And so I can't say it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything good for you.
Yeah, that's right. I one of the things in my teaching is I ask who's a warrior, and not like a warrior, but like a who worries a lot. And people will put their hand up, and I go, okay, here's a question. How much of what you worry about actually comes true? Is it even 1%?
Right.
It's not. Like, it's like, it's not even 1% of what you worry about actually really comes true. Okay, so it's not even 1%. Then what's the point? Why are we worrying about
Exactly.
it? You know what I mean?
But that time they spent worrying about whatever it is, if they hadn't worried about it, it would have been no effect.
That's
But since they spent all that time worrying about it, whatever it was that didn't even manifest actually did affect their lives, because they sit there and worried about it over and over.
That's what it's like. Oh, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. It's like, and then it happened. Oh, see, I told you so. It's like, well, did you bring that into your existence by worrying about it for 2 weeks? You know what I mean? Like there's a whole heap of all that ancient wisdom about manifestation and thoughts and all those sorts of things, mate.
And it's funny you said that about manifesting it. You do, your thoughts, your words, do manifest what happens in your life. Your thoughts start in your subconscious mind. Then you start to dwell on that thought. Then you talk about it. Soon that affects your action one way or another. And you're feeding that energy. And the more you worry about it, the more you talk about it, the more you think about it, the more likely you're causing that to come about and to manifest into your life. And that's another reason you shouldn't worry, and you shouldn't be afraid of stuff. I mean, it doesn't change stuff. You can sit there afraid of that snake all day long, and he's still going to cross the road, whether you're afraid of it or you worry about what he's doing. It doesn't change anything that's happening there. And it's so much like that and that's why I wrote The Art of Inner Peace. I spent so much time thinking, oh gosh, these guys are hurting my reputation. What am I going to do? I can't do my roundhouse kicks anymore. I can't do this. And I got to think, this is ridiculous. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I'm just going to live my life. I'm not going to, sit here and worry about it. And it's, so I sit down and wrote The Art of Inner Peace. I wrote it, I write all my books to help other people, but I also wrote this one to help myself.
To help yourself.
And I go back and read it. And if I start getting stressed about something, I go back and read it, and I get myself back in line. And, that's kind of what I was thinking writing this book is, it's a roadmap, for people to follow for inner peace. And it's written in such a way that if they have a problem with, say they're unhappy and they can't seem to get happy, they can go to the chapter, they can reread that chapter, and they think, I see what I'm doing wrong. I can be happy if I want to be happy.
Absolutely.
And they can fix it.
Well, I suppose, mate, leads me to my probably my last question, buddy. I really appreciate your time, mate, and we'll wrap it up. And it's not a small question. We don't do small questions here at Unlocking the Code. However, what was, when I ask you what was the lesson that came out of writing the Inner Peace series, or what was the two things that really, obviously after, again, you've studied this for so many years, and we never stop learning. And I get that. Well, are you okay, mate? Now, mate, how's your health? How's your tumor? Is that under control, or where are you at?
I'm getting better every day.
Okay.
Leave it at that.
All right. Fair enough, mate. And look, all the best, man. I'll send energy your way.
I appreciate that.
To keep going.
But I think when you as a teacher, when you teach, you learn.
Absolutely.
You're learning more, and you're reinforcing what you're teaching.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's what this book did for me as well. A lot of these principles I put in there, I've studied for years. I knew it. But when you get stressed and you have so many problems to deal with and so many challenges, you tend to forget the things that about. I need to be meditating.
Yes.
Okay. I need, this is ridiculous. I don't need to be stressing myself out. I don't need to be worried. You tend to forget that stuff. It's easier to forget. And that's why I say, the hardest part of living in inner peace is the maintenance. You have to maintain that inner peace. And it's very easy to get sidetracked. You can get sidetracked with what other people do, what they say, how they behave, or you can get sidetracked with just how things are affecting your own life.
Absolutely.
And you have to stay focused. So it's not a one-time thing or even 100-time thing. You have to do this every day, all day long. And it's not like people say, well, how can you focus on doing something like that every day, all the time? That's crazy. You would be doing nothing else, but it's not like that. You just have to be mindful. You have to be thinking about what you're doing. You have to think before you react. You don't react, you respond. And people say, well, I looked in the dictionary, reacting and responding are the same thing.
No,
well, they have the same definition in the dictionary, but they're not the same.
They're not at all. They're not at all.
If a bug flies at my eye, I'm going to blink.
Yeah.
That's a reaction. When you respond to somebody, you have to actually think about how I'm going to respond. What am I going to say? What am I going to do?
That's the variation. That's the variation. Yeah.
And the difference is, you don't think about blinking your eye when a bug flies at you.
No.
It's an automatic response or automatic reaction. But if I get personally attacked, somebody writes a nasty review and attacks me, he's a scumbag, he's this, he's that, then I get I can respond to that. I don't have to react in anger or you let it blow me out.
No,
I can be mindful and respond to that how I decide to respond. And that's the difference. One way you're in control, the other way you put the environment, the other people, whatever, in control of you. You have to stay in control of yourself.
Yeah. I love that. I love that, man. I love that. I tell you, do you know what we're going to do? We're going to do this bloke called Bohdi Sanders. I've got his book here.
That's my first book I ever wrote.
Yeah, right. And so this is what we do, right? So close your eyes.
All right.
And we open it up. Did it again. What was the quote that I sent to you on the email? Every moment of life is the last. So out of all the pages that I could open up, that's the quote that I shared with you in order to tee this interview up.
That's very interesting.
Right. And then the next one, look at this. Only one who continually re-examines himself and corrects his faults will grow. Is that not what we've been talking about?
That's perfect.
The whole time, man. And that's what these books do, Bohdi. That's what these books do, mate.
And that is really amazing. That's perfect. I get so many on social media. I get so many comments when I post, and a lot of what I post is excerpts from, my books.
Yeah.
And I get so many comments. Oh, this is exactly what I needed to hear today. It's like you can read my mind.
Exactly. And there you go. You just saw it. That is how we use your books, man. And it, we just had that, an hour and a half, 2 hour conversation, and it encapsulated it in 2 parts.
And that's exactly what we were talking about. You have to examine yourself every day and throughout the day. And that's, that basically is what being mindful boils down to.
Absolutely.
You have to you have to be mindful of what you're doing, what you're thinking, what you're saying. And if you are, then the more you do that, the inner peace starts to develop. And it's just like the snowball we talked about. It starts to, get bigger and bigger, and until it becomes a habit, and you don't have to react negatively. You don't have to let somebody that's rude to you in the store blow you out or make you have a bad day, because you're mindful. You stop yourself and you say, no, I'm not going to let that jerk ruin my day. I'll never see him again. I don't know him. He's not going to affect my life, and you move on.
That's absolutely, mate. Look, I really, really, really appreciate your time, man. It's been an honor.
Oh man, I enjoyed it, Triffin.
Yeah, it's been really fun. Look, I've got to get the Men of the Code. Maybe I'll get that one, and we have a bit of a chat about that one once I give that one a read.
I'd like to come on anytime you want to chat, man. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, I appreciate that, mate. Now in Australia, I know, because I've ordered my books directly from you, but because of I know the freight's a bit of a stinger from the US. So can you get where are they available in Australia? Is it Amazon?
I believe you guys have Amazon Australia now, right?
Yes, we do. Yeah.
So you can get all my books on Amazon.
Okay, that'll be good.
I used to send a lot of books to Australia, and it used to cost like $34 to send a box of books to Australia. Now it's like close to $80,
I know.
$88.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. But going through Amazon Australia, I don't know what they do there. Here, if you order $25 or more, it's free shipping. So
yeah, right.
that saves you a lot of money.
Well, Bohdi, thank you very much, sir. I as I say, I really appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
It's been fun, and yeah, let's sit down again, mate. It'd be a privilege to have you back on.
Yeah, just let me know, Triffin, and I'll be happy to come on. And because I think you and I really click, and we could go on and on for hours.
Oh yeah, well, just for the listeners, we talked for 40 minutes before we hit the record button. So thanks very much, Bohdi. Look after yourself, mate. Please look after your health. We need you, man.
I will.
Look after yourself. Thanks, mate.
All right. Well, thank you. It was great to be on with you.
No worries. Thanks, Bohdi. Cheers.
Thank you.
Just want to go again?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Go again.
All right. I know you been here before. No surprises, settle the score. I know the darkness deep inside, reckless rage, poison pride. I know the anger, I know the pain, and I know the fear we do not name. And the one who comes to find me when my time is through, I know you, I know you. Wow. I know you. Better.